Good afternoon and a hearty welcome to all our attendees. I'm your host Maheen. For today's enlightening webinar titled Federal Procurement Overview and Greening Government Strategy. Are you eager to delve into the intricacies of selling into the Government of Canada and exploring green procurement opportunities? If so, then you're in the right place. Today we're thrilled to bring you an exclusive webinar focused on demystifying the federal procurement process and shedding light on the greening government strategy in collaboration with Public Services and Procurement Canada. Throughout this session, we aim to equip you with invaluable insights into how to navigate the landscape of doing business with the Government of Canada, particularly concerning the greening government strategy. And this strategy not only fosters sustainability, but also opens doors to lucrative procurement opportunities. Please allow me to introduce our esteemed speakers who will guide us through this enlightening discussion. Firstly, we have Imanzi Kayitare, a seasoned policy analyst from the Public Services and Procurement Canada, Procurement Assistance Canada, Ontario region. With a wealth of experience, Imanzi will provide us with invaluable insights into the federal procurement process. Next, we are honored to have Stefanie Bowles, the manager of the Green and Clean Technology Procurement Technical Team within the Social and Environmental Procurement Policy Directorate at the Procurement branch of PSPC. Stefanie's expertise will offer us a deeper understanding of the greening government strategy and its implications for procurement. Together, they'll highlight the PSPC's green and clean technology procurement priorities and the plethora of opportunities available in this realm. So without further ado, let's dive into this enriching discussion and uncover the pathways to successful engagement with the Government of Canada and its commitment to sustainability. Once again, a warm welcome to all, and let's make the most of this insightful webinar.
Thank you very much, Mihan, for that warm introduction. And also just like to echo what Mihan mentioned. So deep apologies for delaying in today's session. There was some technicalities, but glad that we're able to still have everyone here join us for today's session. So I know we scheduled this for an hour, so I definitely understand it. People can't stay for this full time, but I'll just share just a brief overview about federal procurement, and then I'll pass it over to my colleague, Stefanie, and she'll talk on the Korean government strategy within PSPC. So let me go ahead and share my screen. We'll get started. And so I guess because this is a webinar, so I guess most of the questions could be asked during the Q&A. So there's a Q&A function there. So feel free to ask any of your questions in the Q&A chat. And not sure if the chat could be enabled. So maybe Mihan, if that's something that you could look into. If not, then we'll just have the Q&A portion here. And so we'll get to the Q&A portion once we're done the presentations. Okay, so just getting right into it. So as Mihan mentioned, my name is Imanzi Kayitare, and I'm a policy analyst at Procurement Assistance Canada, Ontario region. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview on the fundamentals of federal procurement. And so recognizing that we are speaking to a green clean tech audience here that's joining us here today across various regions. And so today's presentation will be a good mix on the fundamentals of federal procurement and talk about some green procurement initiatives that our department is looking to undertake. Okay, so just getting started, just to set the context of who we are, Procurement Assistance Canada. So we support smaller and diverse businesses in helping them navigate the federal procurement process. And so we engage, we assist, we help inform businesses on how to sell to the government across various different commodities, including those within the green space also as well. But we help also to reduce barriers to entry. So we're kind of like that first point of contact when it comes to getting involved in federal procurement. So usually you will engage with us. And then if you're interested in learning more, we have lots of free services that are available to you in terms of webinars, info sessions such as today, and also doing collaborative partnerships with key partners in different commodity areas. And we would also look for ways to advance supply diversity through targeted outreach and advocacy. So that's in a nutshell who we are, and we have offices all over Canada, which we all provide the same service and programs. So opportunities for smaller businesses. So the Government of Canada is one of the largest buyers of goods and services. So out of all three levels of government, whether that's municipal, regional, the federal government is one of the highest buyers of goods and service. So on average, it's about the marketplace, about $20 billion approximately that we spend on various goods, services, and construction projects. So this is a very large marketplace, and that on average, smaller businesses do make up a large share of the contracts that are being awarded to businesses across Canada. So how much does the government buy? So just to set the context, so again, I mentioned in my last slide, it's multi-billion dollars in terms of the purchasing that we do, and then awards of contracts of over 500,000 are close to $2 million in credit card transactions. So this represents that there is lots of activity for small and medium businesses to compete. And actually, that's one of the myths that we do hear quite often, that if procurement is just geared towards larger businesses, larger corporations. Now, depending on the scope and the complexity of the projects, there can be some more high-end projects, which there could be a higher dollar amount, but there's also opportunities within varying scopes which small and medium businesses can also compete. So contracting with the Government of Canada. So it is important to note that public services and Procurement Canada, so within Procurement Assistance Canada, we fall under the Department of PSPC. So it is important to note that PSPC is the main procurement arm for the federal government. It is important to note also that all procurement activities must be done in an open, fair, and transparent process, and that all suppliers must have an equal chance of doing business with us. So it is quite different than the private sector. So we must ensure that all procurement is done openly and fairly, and that Treasury Board of Canada's policies and regulations guide how we conduct our procurement processes. So green procurement, won't spend too much time on this because actually my colleague Stefanie will dive a lot more in depth in terms of the initiative that our department is taking when it comes to green procurement. So this is all just to say that green procurement is a high priority for the Government of Canada and for PSPC. And so we're looking into ways of how to integrate environmental considerations within our procurement decision-making processes. Some initiatives are the Green Government Strategy, and so that outlines, specific targets which federal departments are looking to transition to a net zero. And so PSPC is also a contributor to that strategy, and so they're having initiatives such as light-duty vehicle purchases, as well as purchases for EVs as well. And so prioritizing commodities that have the greatest impact at reducing waste, as well as implementing the smart buildings, so technology, the efficiency within the buildings, as well as the net zero challenge. So we'll talk later on more about that. So building networks. So it is important when it comes to federal procurement to understand how procurement works, and also to understand how much understanding the end user needs is important. So as I mentioned before, PSPC plays that procurement arm in collaboration with the subject matter experts, which are the client departments. And so it is important to understand what is the strategy, what are the priorities of a particular department, looking at minister mandates, looking at the budgets, looking at the different priorities that they've outlined on their websites, other different initiatives. And so understanding what the needs are comes to procurement, and also understanding who the key players are. And so in terms of connecting and networking with those right players. And so definitely for those businesses that belong to an industry association, and so it could be industry associations that are joining us here today. That's also really good networks to get plugged into to find out where there could be potential opportunities down the road, whether it's through industry days in a particular area. And so that's part of as you're building out your business and just getting to know the landscape. So low dollar value procurement. So it is important to note. So this is an initiative where if procurements or purchases which are under a certain dollar threshold amount, so if it's under $25,000 for goods and $40,000 for services, construction, This would be categorized as low dollar value procurement. And so with these, there's flexibility for departments to purchase directly from those vendors. And so this could also be a great opportunity for small and medium businesses to get started. Now, depending on the project and the complexity of projects, so not all, projects and procurement, could be considered a low dollar value, especially when it comes to large projects. So just important to note that, this is one of the options out there. And so increasing your visibility is one way. So registering on our Canada Buys platform so that buyers know, what businesses are out there in particular focus areas could be one of the ways, again, to increase that visibility of your business. So non-competitive procurement can be used. So if there are situations where there's a national emergency, if it's a pressing emergency, wildfires, flooding, those are situations when a non-competitive procurement can be used. Low dollar value, I just mentioned about that. And also situations if there's not in the public interest. So if there's national security, or if there's only one known supplier due to copyright, license, or patent. So competitive procurement, so these are thresholds which are above the low dollar threshold as to what I alluded to earlier. So procurement, which is over 25,000 for goods and 40,000 for services. If it's over these amounts, then they'll need to be openly posted on Canada Buys. So for many businesses, if this is new to Canada Buys, and maybe if you're familiar with buy and sell, so we've since transitioned to our new government electronic tendering system, which is Canada Buys, and that's where you'll be able to find out all the information about upcoming procurements, whether it's RFPs, standing offers, supply arrangements, any pre-qualifications. That's where you go to find out that information. So some of the categories of professional services. So recognizing that also, for some commodities, whether it's in, green, renewable, intact, in some situations, maybe there could be situation where you may need to be pre-qualified. If this is an area in which the government does buy quite often, so there can be situations, categories such as pro services. Those are for specific IT or non-IT professional services. I should say IT and non-IT. Task-based informatics for more specific IT services, cybersecurity, for example, and other specific enterprise management. Task and solutions for more HR, business consulting, change management, temporary help services, and professional audit services. As well as those in the construction, architectural, and engineering space. There is initiative through the SELECT program, although if you are also in different regions, also going through the regions to understand how they do architectural and engineering projects is something to keep in note as well. So the federal procurement websites to use. So as I mentioned, Canada Buys. So this is now the one-stop platform where you would go to search for all Government of Canada tender and award notices. So canadabuys.canada.ca. This is where you would go. So this is what it looked like. So this is the new platform. Again, opportunities will not be posted on the buy and sell. So the buy and sell website is still there, but it's now been transitioned to Canada Buys. So this is where you can set up notifications under the different categories. So under the different green, renewable, clean tech, anything related under that specific category or professional service. You can filter, set up notifications, and also just do keyword searches. So if you're in a very specific niche area, it is important to understand under what category or UNSPC category code in which that commodity falls under. So definitely connect with our team to understand that. And so we do have specific sessions geared towards Canada Buys and how to get set up on SAP Ariba. So some of the benefits for using this platform is that no registration is required. This is free. You can search using plain language and also have access to contract history award notices. So this is where you could go to see that information. Again, that's part of the research, the in-depth research to then see what departments are spending, where they're spending, how much they're spending, who the key players, who has been pre-qualified under the standing offer or supply arrangement. And also on a Canada Buys, you could actually flag and say that you're interested for possible collaboration. So there's a section there under most of the tender notices. You want to indicate that you're interested in collaborating and basically flagging that to other companies that you're open to business, maybe as a subcontractor, or if there's other opportunities that you would be interested in. So just to wrap up here, so registering as a supplier. So this is all the information that we're providing here today is the fundamentals that would be needed for any business that wants to do business with the government of Canada, including green and clean tech businesses. So the process is the same in terms of understanding the process, and that's where we come in to really help you understand how to navigate where those opportunities are, how to find it, how to get set up. So even now, when you register on Canada Buys, SAP Ariba, you can indicate, self-identify your green clean tech, company. You can indicate on there. Again, that's more insight and data, that buyers do know, and also registering for the supplier registration information for obtaining a procurement business number. So this could also be needed when you are dealing with any professional services. Well, okay, so in terms of next steps, so if you are interested in getting set up for Canada Buys, definitely you can either contact us. We'll put, I guess if the link is, if the chat's disabled, we'll make sure to follow up in a follow-up email, just include all the links and the resources. But you essentially go to Canada Buys. There's a getting started page. Has all the references to links on how to get started, as well as also our email that you reach out to us. And just to recap the free services, so we offer webinars, info sessions, no matter where you are in the country. So if you're in Ontario, if you're in Quebec, if you're in Atlantic, we have offices all over Canada. So you can come and connect with us. You also have a one-on-one, so you can also connect with us on a one-on-one basis to talk more specifically about your business. And here are our regions which are represented all across Canada, and so they could help you in your next step going forward.
All right. So hello, bonjour tout le monde. Thank you for coming. Apologies for the delay. My name is Stefanie Bowles. I manage PSPC's Green and Clean Technology Procurement Technical Team within our acquisitions program. So Imanzi mentioned that, so my goals for today are to talk about the operational context and ministerial mandates, the green and clean technology procurement policy requirements, and some of the current files and requirements that we have federally, and responsibilities and opportunities for small and medium-sized enterprises. So please don't hesitate to put questions in the chat, and I'm happy to answer them as much as possible. So we'll go quickly through this. So Imanzi got into detail about our volume of spend. So we, for the last 3 fiscal years, have spent as a federal government about $30 billion. $24 billion of dollars runs through our program. That's the acquisitions program within PSPC. We are one of many levels of government in the Canadian family. There's lots of spending that happens at municipal, territorial, and municipalities, universities, schools, and hospitals. And these publicly funded institutions have access to our federal procurement instruments as we seek to sort of scale the demand and achieve better value. So we are also one of many countries. Not only are we one of many governments within the federal family, but we're one of many countries internationally, as you all know. And Canada has signed on to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change to achieve net zero. We have committed to the Paris Agreement target of limiting the increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius. And this will feature throughout our greening government strategy commitments. And we're seeking to use our federal operations to achieve transformational change within the country. And so we're leading, along with the United States, our US colleagues, something called the Greening Government Initiative, which is an international community of practice for officials engaged in increasing the environmental sustainability of national government operations. So this is one of the things that we work on, as well as we try to use our spend and our real property asset base to achieve these urgent goals. So for our mandate letter commitments, our minister is mandated to seek opportunities to support the whole of government effort to reduce emissions, create clean jobs, and address climate-related challenges, ensure that federal procurement practices support the transition to a green economy, and prioritize zero plastic waste and the Buy Clean strategy. So these are some of our mandate letter commitments. And some of the budget commitments that we have are to power all of our federal buildings with 100% clean electricity, implement a low carbon procurement fuel program, and support the greening government strategy. Budget 2022 had PSPC creating tools and guidelines and targets for green procurement across the federal system. And Budget 2023 was very specific on zero emission vehicles. So to get into a bit more detail, Imanzi spoke about the greening government strategy. So the goal is to be in line with the Paris Agreement commitment of 1.5 degrees. The targets are to have a 40% reduction of real property and conventional fleet emissions, net zero emissions by 2050, and overall green and climate resilient operations. So there's 4 pillars to the greening government strategy: real property, mobility and fleet, procurement and clean technologies, and climate resilient operations. And so there's a range of commitments under each of these pillars. And then we implement and we generate results. So as of this last fiscal, we have achieved a 39.8% reduction in federal greenhouse gas emissions from facilities and conventional fleet. So we're doing pretty well on track to achieve the 40% reduction by 2025. So in the Greening Government Strategy, which is available online, it's updated every 3 years. It's a Government of Canada directive. But there's actually going to be a new version coming out relatively soon. But each of the pillars has its own specific targets associated with them and commitments. I saw we had a question in the chat relating to the shadow price of carbon. For in the real property sector, it's $300 a ton, and that's figured into a lot of the decisions around retrofitting. We also have our 100% clean electricity commitment, as we discussed. We have a range of mobility and fleet solutions, so 100% zero emission vehicles by 2030, charging infrastructure deployment, and there's also things around telematics, which is to try to understand the composition of the fleet and the use and etc. So the procurement pillar, and I'll try to go quick because we have 9 minutes. So it has its own commitments as well as being a horizontal enabler to achieve the commitments in the mobility and real property pillars, because obviously you need procurement to be able to buy technologies to reduce your scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions, but you also need to have the procurement process with its own targets. So some of the targets within the procurement process and the procurement pillar relate to incentivizing major suppliers to adopt a science-based target in line with the Paris Agreement, and including criteria that promote sustainable plastic products. The 2020 version of the Greening Government Strategy required that all of our scope 3 procurement emissions are included in our net zero by 2050 target, which means that all of our supply chain emissions, all of the life cycle emissions associated with the raw material extraction, transportation, use, manufacture, disposal of all of the goods that we procure are included in our net zero target, and all of our services as well. So this is a very ambitious target that we have to achieve net zero supply chain scope 3 procurement emissions by 2050. This is a visual of the various sources of the greenhouse gas emissions for federal operations. This is a different inventory than our national inventory that we report to the UN. This is our federal operational inventory, which is maintained on the Treasury Board Secretariat website. And this is all publicly available. It goes through the emissions from buildings and fleet, scope 1 and 2, the national safety and security emissions, and then our estimated emissions for our scope 3 procurement, air travel, and there's commuting as well. So one of the ways that we transmit or translate these commitments into tangible policy outcomes is through the Policy on Green Procurement, which is a federal policy since 2006. It's in line with all of the federal policies that Imanzi discussed around all of the international commitments, the Treasury Board policies. This is a Government of Canada Treasury Board policy on green procurement. It has specific roles and responsibilities for departments and clients and contracting authorities in it. And it also gives the Secretary of the Treasury Board the authority to create standards. And there are two new standards that I'm going to try and speak to in more detail that are important. So the first one is the standard on the disclosure of greenhouse gas emissions. So this is a Treasury Board standard under the Policy on Green Procurement, mandatory for all federal departments under the Financial Administration Act. And it requires that contracting authorities include language in solicitations over $25 million that incentivizes suppliers to adopt a net zero target and disclose their greenhouse gas emissions in line with the Net Zero Challenge, which is an Environment and Climate Change Canada program, or an international equivalent or standard. And we have produced a policy notification that's publicly available that includes all of the equivalent initiatives and all of the contracting mechanisms, and that's available online. And this is something that our team does and implements. There's a second standard under the Policy on Green Procurement related to embodied carbon and structural materials, and that's also for cement, and then for steel is the next category. We're working also to try to measure our embodied carbon in our scope 3 procurement emissions. We have developed methodologies and calculators in 3 categories of procurement, which are available if you sell or are interested in selling or knowing your carbon footprint. If you're a professional service provider, office furniture, or light duty vehicles. And we're also working to improve the granularity and the measurement of our scope 3 procurement emissions, so that inventory is less of an estimate and is a little bit more based in actual fact. Another requirement that we have is around environmentally preferable packaging. So this is for all goods procurements that PSPC administers. It's a requirement that the contracting authority include language specifying recyclable, returnable, or reusable packaging. And this will be included in the bid solicitation documents, whether or not that language is mandatory or optional. But that's another requirement that we have. We're also active in increasing the volume of clean technology procurement. A really exciting project that we have underway that hopefully you'll hear more about soon is the customization of the US Green Procurement Tool. So this is a database of third-party certified environmentally preferable products that can be searched and referenced to determine whether or not there are environmentally preferable options. And this is something that we'll be continuing working on for the next 2 years. We have a partnership with the US government's service provider, Ecomedes, and also the Circular Innovation Council and Mars. So it's an exciting one. And then just to go quickly, so in terms of the responsibilities I outlined for you already, a few of the requirements around GHG disclosure for contracts over $25 million, environmentally preferable packaging, if you're a goods supplier, but you are expected, suppliers and the subcontractors are expected to familiarize themselves with the Policy on Green Procurement. And you're encouraged to promote environmental stewardship by understanding the key environmental issues associated with your good or service, to demonstrate the environmental features of your goods and services, to share information on your corporate environmental policies, and include environmental specifications and environmental criteria from the solicitation documents in the bid submission. So it's really important to read the bid submissions, the evaluation criteria, and all of the requirements closely, because the language will be precise in those documents in terms of what you're expected to submit. In terms of opportunities rather, I mentioned the carbon footprint tools that we have developed that are available upon request. If you're interested, you're able to participate in the Net Zero Challenge program. It has a special stream for small and medium-sized enterprises, and that's a program that's free of charge, and it'll help you do your greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And there's a commitment letter and a participant letter, and that's one of the great programs that Environment Canada offers. And packaging, we spoke about obtaining the relevant certifications. And then there's a range of programs available for small and medium-sized enterprises through the Clean Growth Hub or the Ideas program in the defense sector. And they have great services, as Imanzi was mentioning, in terms of being able to meet with you. I know the Clean Growth Hub, if you haven't participated or become a client of the Clean Growth Hub, I would encourage you to, if you sell what you consider to be a clean technology. They have a lot of services available to refer you to programs that are potentially in line with your sector. Well, thank you. I know it was quite rushed. We didn't have a lot of time. We're already at time, but here are some links. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Miss Stefanie. So yes, definitely very quick, high-level pitch overview there. But thank you for doing that. Yeah. So just for sake of time, yeah, we'll get into some of the questions. I'll just start off from the most recent and then work my way up here. Okay, so question on who would we contact to access the carbon footprint tools?
You can contact our team, and we will. But I'll put in the chat the section on the website where we explain the expectations, and there'll be a generic email account for our team, and we'll send them to you.
Yeah. So it looks like, unfortunately, I guess because this was set up as a webinar, so I guess the chat's been disabled, but we'll make note of that. So yeah, so me and Stefanie will coordinate some of these links that we'll share after the session, in particular the email that you just mentioned, as well as any other relevant website tools. So we'll make note of that and just include just a high level on that. Okay, so that is that. Yeah, question about budget. Yes, I know budget 2024. I guess we're looking forward to that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens in terms of commitments from there. And then in terms of the process for understanding procurement. So yes, if you're a diverse business owner, definitely feel free to contact us, PAC, Procurement Assistance Canada. If you're based in the Ontario region, if you're based in the Ottawa-Gatineau region, we also have our Procurement Assistance Canada offices there, as well as all over Canada. So that is a big focus of what we're trying to do in terms of supplier diversity for that. Question here, how do we get our Canadian Building Intelligence Quotient program to be used by the government's smart building efforts? I guess that was a very specific question there. I'm guessing, Stefanie, any thoughts on that? I'm guessing if there's any, I guess, RFIs, I guess, that are looking for any specific criteria.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I know that RET-Screen is a tool that's used by NRCan and our Real Property Services to do the calculations, but I'm not sure about that particular technology and what it is. But I think RET-Screen is administered by Natural Resources Canada.
Yeah, okay, for sure, yeah. So we'll make note of that also. Yeah, definitely, if you're not familiar with NRCan, Natural Resources Canada, definitely, they're also part of the Clean Growth Hub. So as what Stefanie had alluded to, if you don't already have that bookmark, Clean Growth Hub definitely has lots of resources, funding, program services. So they kind of bring everything all together. So we'll make sure to include that as one of the links. And then there's a question here, Innovation Solutions Canada. Yeah, so the experiment, yeah, that's one of the experimentation programs that the government of Canada has. So that's where they're looking to test out Any new emerging technology could also be related to any clean technologies. And so Innovation Solutions Canada, they put out challenges periodically, so definitely subscribe to their newsletter if you're not already to get updated on the latest up-to-date ones. And the other innovation challenge program is Defense and Security, which is also tied into greening also as well, retrofits, buildings on bases. So definitely check them out for any upcoming innovation challenge programs. And then the last question here, how is the cost of carbon used by the federal government for their CIB funding?
That's the Canada Infrastructure Bank, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Also used also an evaluation of supplier submissions.
In the greening government strategy, there's the $300 shadow cost of carbon for retrofit decisions. I don't know what the Canada Infrastructure Bank does or uses. I mean, for us, it's really the greenhouse gas disclosure requirement for contracts over $25 million. But it is related to life cycle costing and trying to understand the full life cycle of our assets as we do planning and investment cycles. But yeah, I don't have any more details on, can't comment on. I don't know what the Infrastructure Canada does specifically.
Sure.
So the ISC question, yeah, Imanzi did answer it. So it's the testing and the challenge streams. This is like it's for clean technologies or pre-commercial clean technologies, earlier technology readiness levels. There's the testing stream. And so there are clean technologies that the government will test in its operations under the testing stream. And that's an ongoing program. And there are like procurement avenues for that, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then in terms of presentations, question here. So we will certainly send the presentation to everyone that attended, and even if you just registered, didn't have a chance, we'll send it out to everyone through CanadianSME, as well as we'll include our key contacts in terms of PACs, but then also as what Stefanie mentioned, their contacts or their office contacts. If you have any questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I have time for one more. So government procurement can play an important role in de-risking climate technology for the broader market. Can you speak to green procurement initiatives that support that? Competitive procurement typically picks the lowest bidder, which can be a hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely something that we do hear quite often engaging with the supplier community. And so this is definitely an area that we're looking to address. Obviously, working with startups within emerging technologies, within green procurement. But I'm not sure, Stefanie.
Yeah, I agree. It's a question that we hear a lot, and we want government to be that reference customer and be able to lead by example, and we're often promoting companies internationally, and having the domestic support is important. And that's definitely true. I think something that we're looking into with our colleagues at Mars for that project that I explained, we were talking about the customization of the US tool for third-party certifications, is how do you get a third-party certification for a clean technology that can be trusted? And that's definitely something that we're looking at trying to build more capacity for within the ecosystem, because for procurement, there's a lot of, it's trust and verify, right? You want to make sure that the claims are supported. And so a third-party certification for clean technology is something that we're looking at trying to build into procurement.
Okay. I think we will sort of close it here. I know we've gone a little bit over, but really just want to thank everyone for coming out. Again, just really thank you for your patience as we were working in the background with our technical issues. But I'm glad to see that people still stuck around and hopefully found this informative, and going to do more of these sort of collaborative engagement sessions. So as a next step, we'll certainly send in the next couple of days presentation deck, as well as some key resources and some links. If you have any questions, there'll also be opportunities for you to reach out to us back. As I mentioned, we're kind of like that in between procurement and industry. So, we are here for you in terms of understanding. So definitely feel free to reach out to us. So thank you, Stefanie, for joining with us. Really appreciate us. And so I think we'll end it here. And thank you, and hope you all have a great day. Enjoy the night.
Thank you all for joining us on the webinar on Federal Procurement Overview and Greening Government Strategy. A big thank you to our speakers, Imanzi and Stefanie, for their invaluable insights. To our attendees, we hope you gained valuable knowledge to navigate the federal procurement and embrace sustainability. Stay informed and inspired. Thank you and goodbye.